want to play my Gibson 2000 ES 335 with this beautiful figured top. We're gonna find out if this thing's any good. This video isn't like other videos out there, you know, where they talk for like 15-20 minutes and then only play the guitar for like a minute and a half. We're gonna be playing the holy heck out of this thing. There's still gonna be some talking though. I'm still breaking in my Paul Reed Smith HDRX 4x12 cabinet with the G12H75 creambacks, so things might sound just a little bit different than normal. As per usual, we're going to be doing some comparisons with some other guitars as well. But enough talking, let's get after it. So you can't do a review on YouTube unless you talk about the specs, right? I'm gonna try and do that quickly and then we'll get back to 5 more sound samples. So starting off here, we have laminated maple. So it is figured, so we have maple sides, figured maple top, single piece, and single piece figured maple back. We also have a slim taper mahogany neck, with a bound rosewood fretboard with dot inlays. There's a reason why they call it the dot. On the front of the headstock is where you're gonna see the inlaid Gibson logo and the inlaid crown. They've also called it the holly leaf or the thistle. And on the back of the headstock is where you're gonna see the Grover Rotomatic non-locking tuners. We have 2 volume and 2 tone, a 3-way toggle switch, and that controls the Classic 57 Plus and Classic 57 pickups. And as far as the bridge here, we do have the ABR1, which is drilled directly into the body, just like custom shop guitars, and a stop bar. But that's really the basics. Let's get back to 5 more sound samples. So now that we've heard the 5 sound samples, let's go ahead and we'll try and prevent some tears from forming themselves into comments. This is beneficial, but I like saying that because I find it mildly entertaining to myself, because I'm alone here in my basement studio. We're going to play this clean with all 3 pickup positions. But personally, I've always been someone who likes to hear how pickups actually react to a little bit of light drive, so here's that. And of course, you want me to wiggle around these knobs, right? So you can hear the volume and the tone, so let's go ahead and do that. So it's at this point in the video where I like to kind of grab a couple of guitars so you can, hear what some of the differences sound like. I generally try to use different pickups as well. So one natural thing, a lot of people may not be aware of this guitar, but you might want to hear what an ES 335 sounds like against a ES 135. There was a secondary model, the 135 with humbuckers. There was also the 137 with humbuckers. These are P100 pickups, so they are very, very different than P90s, and they're kind of stacked coil, so they're almost like humbucker, but not really. There's not a lot of variance in the tone. However, I just absolutely freaking love them. So let's go ahead and do a 3 pickup position comparison between both of them. next natural comparison that you might want to hear would be, what does the ES335 sound like against a Gibson Les Paul? So this is a 1959 VOS. This has the custom buckers in it. The classic 57s, being the 1957 recreation, although the classic 57 Plus is just a little bit hotter. You're going to actually hear, like when you hear the difference from what I'm hearing while playing them and then in the playback and everything, these are definitely a little hotter, and there's a lot more low end to them, whereas these are just a little more dialed back with a little bit of a sweeter top end. So let's go ahead and just do a 3 pickup position comparison. On to the final comparison here. I have a 1961 Les Paul, which then became referred to as the SG. So let's do a 3 pickup comparison. This has the custom buckers in it as well. It's the 1961 VOS. So let's do a 3 pickup comparison here, and just different body shape and everything, so people want to hear it. Maybe 3 pickup position comparison. So that's it for all of the sound samples and comparisons and wigglings of the knobs and such. So it's at this point in the video where I'd like to talk about whether or not I think this is a good guitar, because for you, you're able to actually hear the different sound samples, right? So you're able to go, okay, I like that sound, I don't like that sound. That sound kind of works. Hey, this is a little bit of a versatile guitar. Okay, that works with it, you know what I mean? So you can kind of hear whether or not you think this might be a good guitar sound-wise. But you can't reach through the screen and, you know, start playing this thing. So let me talk about how this guitar feels, because really, it's an ES335. Look at this freaking top on here as well. This is absolutely nuts. And it's definitely a good guitar. The ES335 is a highly overlooked and extremely versatile guitar. Often when I've done like metal samples for like Gretsch guitars, Jazz Masters, things with P90. Well, P90 is not a good example because they can just kill it. Single coil and stuff like that. There's usually an asterisk next to it. You know what I mean? Like, it can metal. Yeah, it sounds like metal. But, you wouldn't necessarily want to use it live because of this or that. And, it sounds like metal, but it's not exactly, and a humbucker would be better. This sucker's got humbuckers in it. So there's no asterisks in beside, if you can play metal with this, you can. You can play high gain, you can play metal, you can switch it right over to jazz, dial back on that tone on the neck, and you've got some just great jazz. So this thing can do a whole bunch of everything and a whole bunch of everything. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, I want to talk about how this guitar feels. And it is something that this portion of the body, when you're playing seated, is huge. So if you're used to a Les Paul, this is going to throw you off. If you're used to an SG, this is going to throw you off. Strat, Telecaster, any of those things, this is going to throw you off. It's a very large body, and the side is a little thinner than a traditional like semi-hollow or a hollow body. So like that ES135 is definitely thicker on the side. So you can kind of see there's a big difference. So when you're playing seated, the way that it kind of rests on your lap, and then you get the booby cutaway here, it just means that your arm's gonna have to sit up a little bit higher than normal. Sort of like an Explorer, but not like an Explorer. Is it uncomfortable? Not at all. It actually feels very, very natural. Just this arm here, when you're going from a smaller guitar to this, you'll notice there's a difference. The other thing here, the upper fret access to the 22nd fret, perfect. It's just like an SG, but that your whole neck isn't like, pushed forward like 2 inches because of it. It's still sort of set up like where everything rests and everything, more similar to a Les Paul than an SG. Now, when you're playing this, what you're going to feel in your body is a whole whack of presence. A lot of people would say that it's a resonant guitar because it rings out. That would technically actually be that it's a highly present guitar. Resonance would generally be referring to the lower end of the spectrum, but a lot of people would say resonant because it rings out. So I've always kind of considered it present rather than resonant. So you're actually feeling a ton of presence, and there's not a ton of resonance. So what that means is your body, and that could be because of where the, you know what I mean? There's a lot more hole in the, it's a little more hollow on this portion of the body. So when you're playing, you're feeling all that presence. So your finger and your fingers and your hands actually get a lot more of the ringing out than your body does. Which is very different than a Les Paul, which is a whole chunk of wood, especially if it's a satin finish, because you're going to feel a lot more low end in your body, and you're going to be missing a lot of that top end presence. And that's typically why they choose to put maple necks on satin finish guitars, because they're more present, right? It gives you a little more snap of that high end, so there's a little more balance with them. So this one here, a lot more present. Doesn't mean that it's like when you're playing it acoustically, it doesn't feel good or anything like that, because there's not a whole ton of resonance. Oh my, very bright guitar, sounds absolutely beautiful when you're playing it acoustically. And on all of my guitars, I choose to put 10 to 46 gauge strings. I have always used 10 to 46 gauge strings. I think when my first year, I had 9s, and then somewhere along the way, somewhere like I started using green Tortex picks and 10 to 46 gauge strings. And I didn't have the, you know, like handlebar mustache thing like that, but like that was the James Hetfield thing, right? Green Tortex picks, 10 to 46 gauge strings. So I've kind of stuck with that. They feel at home to me. But the reason I'm saying this here, and I also have the stop bar because I like a lot of tension in my strings, for the simple fact that I don't like changing string gauges, and my tuning really fluctuates on what tuning I'm in, whether I'm in, like, you know, DADGAD in B, DADGAD in C, E standard, drop D, drop C, D standard, you know what I mean? My tuning goes all over the place. So I tend to like having that stop bar down almost to the body, so it gives me a lot more tension. So I'm not a top wrap kind of a guy. So in comparison to like a Les Paul or an SG or any other guitar, this has a lot more tension. So this is one of those guitars that to me would actually be comfortable if I started raising that stop bar to lower some of the tension, just so it feels a little more slinky in my fingers when I'm going to you know, play leads or anything like that. However, because this is a highly bright and present guitar, that extra tension actually feels very welcome. And when I'm playing leads on this, especially if I got it on the neck pickup here, it's just a little sweeter in my ears, and I get a little bit more, I guess, mind connection because there's a little more tension. And the classic 57 pickups, people absolutely love these pickups. It was a shame there was I can't remember what they have on them now, on the ES335s. I don't know if they're like T-tops or something different. I know they were different for a little while. But an ES335, if it's not a custom shop, or if it's an earlier custom shop, it should have Classic 57 and Classic 57 Plus. That is the perfect pickup for this guitar. And if you couldn't hear it in the comparisons, dear Lord, it just adds a ton of low end, especially on the neck pickup. So if you are, you know, going to be playing jazzier or fake jazz, as I like to call it, which is basically just cleans with a couple of, like, you know, trickier chords, then that is a highly welcomed addition with the Classic 57 in the neck. The Classic 57 Plus also helps you get all of those versatile tones. So because it's a lot brighter and a lot hotter, there's a lot of benefit from actually dialing back on your tone and dialing back ever so slightly on your volume. Doing so will actually just give you that much more versatility and just take off a little bit of that top end if it's a little bit too much for you, and give you a little more control over the sound. Now, one other thing that I really want to make note of here, because this is a gloss nitro finish and it is a semi-hollow body, that means that, because, like, I think it's because air, you know, circulates inside the body and stuff like that, so the moisture can actually get into the guitar, and it allows it to open and close, like the wood to expand, retract, contract, and everything like that. And what ends up happening is, in certain locations, not just like generally what you see over years with like a solid body guitar, is at the neck pocket you usually see like where the, you know, the different woods have like expanded and contracted or retracted and what have you, and there's like there's a little bit of checking that happens here. On semi-hollows and hollow bodies, the checking usually begins at the like neck pocket, and then where the binding meets the body. So I don't know, I can see if I can get a couple of shots here. So there's a little bit of checking that goes on here. And then the other location is here. So where the strap button is placed in. It's not because of the strap button per se. What it is the laminate maple sides. So there's this piece here. That's not one piece. It's two pieces that are put together. So at that seam there, because air gets in and whatever, it shrinks, it expands, and then you start to see like lacquer checking and stuff like that. So just note when you're getting a semi-hollow body, if it has nitro finish, you're going to start seeing checking. Now, that is not a scary thing, and a lot of times it'll actually add value to your guitar. I wish I had a really good example. I've had guitars in the past where like the headstock, and that's another location here. So typically you'll see like where the Gibson logo is, and then the thistle or the crown or the holly leaf here. That also, the wood just expands and shrinks around it, so you start to see checking there as well. I've had guitars in the past that over the years they start checking all over the front of the headstock, and it just looks absolutely amazing. Another example here would be the checking on the body of this guitar. So this is like a 1990s, either like a 93 or a 96, I think. And this you see checking all over the body, and because it's a sunburst finish and sunburst back and everything, it makes it look older than it actually is. So this, to some people, because of the checking that's up here, they may think that this is like a 70s guitar. It's not, it's a 90s. So just keep that in mind when you are looking to buy a hollow body or a semi-hollow body or anything like that. Because there's openings on the guitar and moisture can get in and out, and the pieces are thinner rather than, on a completely solid body guitar that has like a mahogany back and a maple top. Moisture doesn't really get into those spots where the glue kind of holds them together. So, that's why you don't see like splitting down the middle of like solid bodies or anything. Here you just see like where the wood meets other parts, or the wood meets the wood, separate parts of the wood. You start to see, it's called lacquer checking. It's just the lacquer itself, because the wood is, expanding and expanding and shrinking at all times, not at all times, during winter and like summer months. Basically when it goes from cold to hot to cold to hot. Well, that's it for the video. Again, this is a fantastic guitar. I was extremely lucky to pick this up. And when I picked it up, I bought it from Stang Guitars 4 or 5 years ago, and it was one of those things where it came available. It was available for 2 days, and I bought it. And a whole bunch of people got mad at me because I bought it, because they were looking to purchase this one here. Yeah, just the figuring on it, and the fact that it's figured on the back. The figured models, rather than the like flat finish or what have you, or plain top and plain back, they're a much higher price to purchase them that way. So yeah, very lucky to own this. Thanks for watching.